Before we start this video, a large thank you to Lightbreak, Jim Sond, Stefano, and Sumer for their support on Patreon. I hope you guys enjoy the video. And, as always, a massive thank you to Halo Burner and Ryan Bellin for their immense support to the channel this month on Patreon. It is greatly appreciated, gentlemen, and I hope you enjoy the video. Hello everybody, today we're going to continue our stealth system, and I see that I've already made an investigate sound state. I just completely forgot. But I got a really interesting suggestion in the comments by somebody suggesting we make objects that you can hide in. So before we do that though, let's go to the player sound effect manager, and where we play our footstep sound effect, just do a check to see if you are sneaking, and if so, don't play the sound, and don't alert the character nearby. So I also came into an interesting potential issue, and I'll show you that momentarily, and we'll also make a fix for it. But first, let's go over here to the character combat manager, and the AI character combat manager, where we're finding our target, let's do a check if the character is hiding. So we have our detection radius, and what I think Elden Ring does is it's 50% of that. Now keep in mind, radius is obviously it's a circle around you, so the direct distance from the center of the character to you is going to be a bit different. So I believe if we were to use, say, we're going to make a float here on the World Utility Manager for hidden target detection radius. What are we going to call this? Penalty? So if we use 0.5, since it's a radius, this is just going to be basically the same because we're going to use this measuring the distance. So keep that in mind. I'm going to change it to 0.25 here in a moment. But this is going to be basically, we're going to multiply the detection radius by this modifier. And if you want, you can put it on the AI character combat manager if you want every AI to be different. But I'm going to keep mine on the World Utility Manager. And what we're going to do is we're going to compare the distance of the potential target to the detection radius times this modifier. And if you want to do something different, like you can just give it a straight up different number if you want, like hidden detection distance limit or whatever. But I'm just going to multiply the radius by this number because then it feels more consistent. So I'll make it 0.25, and then I'll come back to the find target, and we're going to say if the targeted character is in fact sneaking, and they are hidden, both, not just one. So if someone's already spotted them, this won't apply. We could say float distance from potential target is equal to vector3.distance, and then we're going to check between this AI character and the potential target. So we can do that by saying vector3.distance AI character.transform.position, and then we're going to also pass the targeted character.transform.position. And then right below that, we can say float, and we can say max distance, and then we're going to say this is equal to, and what we're going to do is just say our detection radius times, and we're going to pass our multiplier. So if you have a detection radius of 10, and we times this by 0.25, that'll be 25% of that, then basically the max distance is now 2.5 meters. And this distance is obviously calculated from our character center point to our targeted character center point. So then we're going to say if the distance from the potential target is greater than the max distance, we could continue, or we could make them investigate a sound in that direction. So this is what I do in F. This is optional. Also, side note, since the distance is calculated between the center of your character and the center of your target character, if you have a very large character, you might want to calculate from the bounds as opposed to the center. And if you don't know how to do that, I can make a video on that. But I do that with really massive characters in NEF when I calculate the distance from the target. This is useful for doing things like their attacks. You want the distance from the bounds of the character, not the center point. Anyway, we can call alert character to sound here optionally. But this, in some situations, is not going to work. And I'm going to show you why. If I come in here right now, he's just going to go right to the pursuit. Oh, he's not supposed to go to the pursuit target state. Let's tick will investigate sound on your idle state. I forgot to do that. And also, don't comment out this if statement. Put it below alert character to sound. I'm half asleep still here. Apologies. Let's save this and go back. Let's try this again. Now, under here, the current state right here, it's actually not switching, or rather it's switching, but then it's immediately becoming overridden. This is the problem I was talking about. Now, why is this happening? So you can see here we're assigning the current state. This is true. If we go over here to our AI manager, though, what's happening is it's actually, I'm assuming, the order of operations in which the scripts are executing their updates, it's happening before our current state is being set in our update function down here, right here. So what we're going to do is make a flag for has manually switched state, and we're going to say if we've not manually switched state, then we're going to apply the state. Otherwise, we'll wait, and then we'll say has manually switched state is equal to false. This makes it so for this one frame, if you've manually switched your state, we're not going to override it with the current state. And then instead of calling switch state, we're going to copy this function and paste it, and we're going to make this function called manually switch state. It's going to do the exact same thing, except we're going to simply say AI character.manually switch state is equal to true. So this will be called from outside of a state because we're calling a switch state from inside of a state or inside of the state machine. This can be triggered by things like other functions on other scripts or, investigate sound calls. But from what I gather, the order of operations was making it so that basically when we tried to switch that state, it was switching, but it never got a chance to run because on that same frame, it was switching again from the AI character manager. And I believe there's a way to change the script priority and which runs first, but we're not going to get into that. This is definitely a more straightforward way to fix it. So we call manually switch state, and now he should, when we get within that bounds, he should go to investigate sound, and yes, he does. So you can see now he's walking towards, it looks like the 0 point, so there's still an issue there where basically we don't want to clear that position when we reset the state flags, which I believe we're doing. So let's go ahead and go back into investigate sound, and what we're going to do is simply go to where we reset the state flags and comment out where we're clearing our position, because you can continually update the state too as you send more calls, which will continually update his position to investigate. So right here under reset state flags, just delete this or comment it out in case you think you might want it later. And then when we come back here, you can see, yes, he's looking for me. And you can see as I walk around, he's in investigate. So he's not in pursue, which is why he's going quite slowly. And as I walk around, he's just kind of following the sound, which is what we want. Now, if we get close enough to him, you should see in a moment that he's going to actually enter a pursuit state, but he will just keep following the sound like this. And as I get close, you can see he has entered the pursue target state. Okay, cool. Very cool. All right, now let's go ahead and make these hidden objects. This was a really cool idea. I think Elden Ring does this too, but I completely forgot about it. So thank you to the commenter who suggested this. I'm just going to take some grass here now. And actually, before I jump into this, because I'm kind of doing this off the cuff, this is not something I'm pulling from Nephilim, I should discuss to you my thought process. So there are two ways that came to my mind to do this. So find your grass prefab and add a trigger if you want to do it the way I'm doing it, but I'll show you both ways. We'll bring up MS Paint here in a second. But I'm going to make this a trigger, this collider, and I'm going to set the radius to something that's not too egregious. I might need to expand or shrink that later, we'll see, but I'm not going to worry about it too much for now. So I'm going to save that. So in Paint, what you could do here is you could do a ray cast from the character, and you can make it so if they hit something here that is defined as a hidden object, you basically can make it so we don't check for any kind of target. That's one way of doing it. In my mind, the easier way of doing it, at least what pops in my head immediately, is putting triggers on all these objects and keeping a list of them. And if a player's list, like if they're standing in one of these and the list count is above 0, and they are also sneaking and hidden, then we don't register them as a target. So let's go ahead and do that. So thank you to, I believe it was, I can't say his name here, SK100101 for this request, because I completely forgot about it. Cheers, bro. Now I'm going to make a script called stealth object, and I'm going to delete the start and update functionality, drop in my namespace as is per tradition, minus SG. And now we're going to do some on trigger enter and on trigger exit witchcraft here. And what we're going to want to do is basically every time a player, or a character actually if you want to, in case you want this functionality available for regular characters, every time a character enters this, we want to add a stealth object to their list of stealth objects. And we also want to make sure we're keeping track of every character that's in this object, because in case something happens where this object randomly gets destroyed or disabled, we want to basically go through the list of every character standing in it and remove this stealth object from their list of objects they're standing in, just in case. So basically this tries to cut out some way that you could take the stealth object with you somehow and keep it in your list, even though it's not there anymore. So go to the character combat manager and add a header here for stealth or sneak, whatever you want, and make a, actually it doesn't need to be private, let's make it public because we can reference the count directly, and you could make a getter function if you want to as well, but I'm just going to make the list public. And we're going to say stealth objects, and we're going to initialize that as a new list. Let's call it stealth objects currently standing in. I guess that makes the most sense. And then we're going to make two functions here for adding and removing stealth objects. So I'll make a comment for stealth objects, and we're going to say public void add stealth objects, or add stealth object rather, and then we're going to make it require a stealth object that you pass. And then we're going to make a public void for remove the stealth object. That's going to do the opposite. We're just going to take it out of the list. All right, so I'm going to do two things here. We're going to obviously check the list to see if it already contains this object. But also before that, we're going to do a null check. And if it's null, we're going to return. And then the opposite is true down here in remove. We're going to check to see if it doesn't contain the list. If it doesn't, then return. And we should also do a check in a for loop. Let's add it to the list up here and then remove from list down here. We're going to do a check in a for loop too and check for any null entries. And if they're there, we're going to remove them because we're basing this list on the count. So if there's a null entry, it still counts as a count. We want to remove that. So under add stealth object, right before we make any check, we're going to, for addition, we're going to go ahead and check the list for null entries by saying do a for loop, and if stealth objects currently standing in I is equal to null, we're going to say stealth objects currently standing in dot remove at I. And then for the remove stealth object, we're going to do it after we've went ahead and removed it. There we go. And now we can call add stealth object over here on our stealth object. So on trigger enter, we can do a check for a character. We can say character manager, character is equal to other get component dot character manager. I think I'm going to make the layer of this interactable object, so it's just interacting with the character layer, and not necessarily a bunch of other things it doesn't have to. If the character is null, simply return. Do the same thing on trigger exit. You can copy and paste this. Now let's make a private list of character manager, and let's call this list characters standing in object. Or we could say stealth object. And no Unity, or rather Visual Studio. I don't want NUnit framework. I'd like system.collections.generic. I miss the old Visual Studio and I regret updating. Using system.collections.generic, there we go. We're going to say equals list character manager. There we go. All right, cool. Now I am going to come down here to add player stealth object. I'm going to say if characters standing in stealth object dot count, or sorry, dot contains, and we're going to make it require a character manager variable here. So if it already contains the character, obviously we're going to return, and we're going to check for a null right above that as well, just like we did in the player combat manager. So if the character is equal to null, simply return. Okay, now we can copy, oh, forgot a bracket, we can copy and paste this in the remove, and obviously we're going to check against. So it's not going to be checking for if it's in the list, if it's not in the list. And let's make sure we make this required character. And then the same thing, we're going to remove it from the list. And then the same thing up here, we're going to add it to the list if it passes these checks. And we should also, again, check for any null entries and remove them because you're playing a network game and characters can get, they can leave games, drop out, their game object gets destroyed. So I'm going to check for a null entry when we go to add. I'm going to check for a null entry after we remove. Just going to hold Alt here and highlight this and copy and paste it because I've copied my other for loop to save me a moment of time. And I'm going to come down here and do the same thing. Okay, very good. All right, now we can finally call these add and removes. Well, actually, forgot one very important thing. When you add and remove the character, don't forget to add or remove the stealth object from their character combat manager via the functionality we just created. So after you pass the checks and you add them to the list, also go ahead and add the stealth object to their list. There we go. Or remove it. Now, over here on trigger enter and exit, now we can call our add and remove, and I'm going to change add player to add character because I am referencing a character here, not a player. And this is just so if you want to do this on your characters, not just your players. Okay, and I'll change the name to from remove player to remove character. Very good, great. This is going to be funny if it works. Okay, now over here on stealth object, I'm going to call on disable, and just as a failsafe, this is called to before destruction, so I'm going to go ahead and do a for loop here, and we're going to iterate through them all, and if it's null, simply continue. The object is about to be nuked anyway, or turned off, and then we're just going to say remove character from list, and that will check for nulls anyway, actually now I'm thinking about it. So we're going to say remove character from stealth object, and we're going to pass characters standing in stealth object I. There we go, and we can save that, and now let's go and jump over here to the AI character combat manager, and now under find target via line of sight, what we want to do is right before we start doing a distance check here, when they're sneaking and hidden, we want to check and see if, from the targeted character to character combat manager, if the stealth object count they're currently standing in is greater than 0, simply continue, skip them. And let's save this. Now this is going to take some playing around too with the size of the collider and such, but I'm going to switch this to interactable and I'm just going to test it. I put a few grass pieces here in game. I think they're not quite close enough. Yeah, okay, so this is cool though because now you can see I'm in a stealth object, right? And now as soon as he sees me, there he goes. You can see them disappearing and reappearing in the list. I didn't quite make the colliders big enough. Now if I go in here, you can see he's actually just going to go to the last place he saw me. He's going to completely ignore me as I'm walking by here. And if I were to come out of this corner again, what he should do is look at me. Yep, okay. And now if I go in here, he should stop trying to track me. Yep, he's just going to keep going down to where he thinks he last saw me. All right, very cool. So I want to just quickly make this so I can get really close to him. So I've added a bunch more grass here, and I want to see if I can get right alongside of him before he sees me, just to make sure. This is definitely some Looney Tunes shit. All right, very cool. Yeah, all right, that is working as intended. Fantastic. That was a brilliant idea, man. Thank you for that suggestion. Very fun to do. If you guys found any issues with that, please let me know, because that one was pretty much off the cuff. And yeah, it's not something I pulled from Neff with weeks of testing prior. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching. As always, I hope you have a very lovely weekend. Thank you to my patrons for keeping my lights on. Thank you to the people who take the time to like and share this video and share it via word of mouth. This series is definitely alive and well because of you guys. I'm going to jump into some more suggestions that I've had in the comments for the next video. So I will see you then.